Starting.
It's a spike! That way you know where we're starting. You're welcome. Hi, Happy New Year, bitches! New Year, same shit. Today...
Great intro.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Expect
much.
nothing less.
I have my long-lost friend, sister friend, Elena Morris, soon to
Hi.
be something else. I don't know. Are you changing your name?
I'm gonna combine.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. I think I'm doing the Morris Fuller deal.
I don't think I realized it was Fuller,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the show Fuller House.
Now I don't want to change it.
All my basic is showing. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You did open with Happy New Year, bitches, so I think you just gotta stay on that path.
So, fun fact, Elena's mom is also a nurse. Elena, hold on.
Yes.
Back up. Elena, tell me about yourself and what you do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm a baby nurse. I'm coming on 2 years. ER nurse in Charleston right now.
Okay.
So that's mainly my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. And your mom is a nurse?
Yeah.
Your mom's been a nurse for how long?
I mean, like her 20s. So I won't disclose
Right.
that, but a long time.
Right.
Long time. So she's done, she started bedside. So she did, I know she was a cardiac nurse, and then worked outpatient cardiac for a while, switched to real estate for a little bit, and then came back.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Now she's a school nurse for little kiddos, which sounds not like, when I talk to her about it, it's so much more than you think being a school nurse will be. You're just like running all the health programs.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. Yeah.
That's interesting. I tried the school nurse thing for 1 week.
Oh, really? And you're like,
and realized
no.
what all encompassed, and I was like, pass. Elena's mom gave me my first job as a new grad in urgent care.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's how we met.
So that's how Elena and I met. And
I don't know how many years ago that was. 13, 14 years ago.
So yeah, so that would have been 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
So about 12 years ago.
Yeesh.
11, 12 years ago. Oh, dude. Elena used to watch Naomi when she was a baby.
And now she doesn't even recognize me. It's fine.
Yeah, today she didn't know who she was. That was great.
I
was like, Auntie Lainey, is that not ringing a bell? She was like, no.
No,
Ma.
Nope. Just forgotten memory.
It's fine. Well, she took real good care of you. Just know that. So when I first asked you if you wanted to be on here, actually, even before then, I remember we had talked once. We had a conversation where you told me about how being an ER nurse wasn't really what you expected.
Yeah.
And hasn't really panned out to be kind of what you were excited for and anticipated and all of that. What do you mean by that?
I mean, I think it's kind of hard too, because I literally started right when COVID was starting. So I don't know if I know what a normal ER is even like. So, I think it was funny before I started, and this was like a huge insult to me when he said it, but my fiance Cameron told me he was a little worried. This is before I even got an ER job, because I wanted to go in ER. I've been in urgent care, did EMS, all that stuff. It's what I've always liked. Yeah. But he was like, I'm a little worried that like maybe emotionally it's going to be too much for you. And I was like, how dare you? I was like, what do you mean? You don't think I can handle it? You don't think I'm strong enough? Red. So, but he was kind of in a weird way right, in the sense that like, I don't think I realized, like, I don't know how much you really take in when you're there, and there's nowhere to put it. There's stuff that you're seeing and you're dealing with, and the relationships of people that you work with, and the environment itself. And it was like, I would come home and I'd be like, what the fuck just happened? It's just, it was really hard to kind of compartmentalize my normal life from ER. So in that way, that was weird. I didn't expect that. And then, I mean, also just the ER gets kind of shit on constantly, and the rest of the hospital can change the way they, have their staffing ratios and this or that, but we can't tell people to stop coming in. They can tell people to stop coming upstairs. So we were just so backed up, and our ratios were insane, and we were caring for, you know, people that would be med surg or ICU or PCU patients, and that's not what I personally wanted to do. I didn't become a, you know, floor nurse, so it was
or
just
even
all of that.
necessarily have the skill to do.
Yeah.
While also running the rest of the ER.
I was just learning, and I was then, like, I remember the first couple weeks off, I had intubated patients that were very critical care, and of course my team would help, but everyone else is swamped, and I'm like, cool, I just gotta learn this now, and I'm not a critical care nurse. You know, I mean, I am to an extent, but like new nurse taking care of ICU patients by themselves and having 6 other patients. Right. Doesn't make sense.
And then it's obviously stressful for you and for, you know, the nurses, but I mean, that's not fair to the patient.
No.
And there's part of you that knows it. Yeah. There's like when you're in situations that are kind of over your head at the time of, and you learn, you learn quick and you get good at what you do. But when you're in those situations and you know that you don't know, that's not a good place for the patient to be. And you can call the nursing supervisor and you can call your assistant nurse managers and your nurse managers and whatever, and they just don't have anyone. Yeah. Or they refuse to come out on the floor themselves. And it's just a very scary place to be.
Yeah. So I think at that time that you and I talked, that was during that time of like just being like, okay, I have to adjust, I have to grow. And I was very scared. And realizing now more, so it's not like the ER isn't. Like, I love emergency medicine. When I took a step back and went PRN, I was like, oh, okay. Was just so overwhelmed with how the system worked in general, how the hospital operated in general, that I was thinking something that I really enjoyed, I didn't, if that made sense. So I think it was much more so that than actually being like, oh, I don't want to be a nurse or I don't want to be an ER nurse.
That's a really insightful conclusion to come to. Like, I actually love what I do. Yeah. It's just when the system that I do it within makes it so shitty for me and so much for me to handle at one time, then I don't love it. Right. But what we do and what we know how to do, we love when it's in an appropriate ratio, in an appropriate setting, in a place where everybody can be safe, the patients, the staff, the whatever. But when it's all, and that's the issue with the ER. That's always the issue with the ER. I like have a motto that the police, I don't know, you have a lot of police in your ER that come in with the psych population and things like that. Like, we always talk about how every other system failure in the United States falls in the lap of either the emergency department or policing or both. Yeah. And like, that's the final straw of like, when every other thing has failed people, this is where they show up. Yeah. This is the one place that, whatever reason, they can't be turned away. And so it's just like, that's a lot. Yeah. That's a lot. Like, my skill level is anywhere from a critically ill patient that's intubated on pressors, needs, you know, like dialysis, or needs like just life-saving measures right here, right now. It ranges from that to knowing EMTALA laws, to taking in, you know, your 88-year-old demented grandma that the family just doesn't want to care for anymore, and trying to find placement and work with case management. It's just such a range of stress. Yes. And so many different approaches. Like, you go from one room and you have to act a certain way. You go in a different room, you have to act a completely different way and think completely differently. Right. All ages, all scenarios, everything lands here. And it's just almost, it's like a balancing act. Yeah. From one room to the next, of just kind of like, okay. Yeah. Right now I'm a peds nurse. Yeah. Right now I'm a hospice nurse. Right now I'm, you know, having this really difficult conversation with this family. Right now I'm getting yelled at because a turkey sandwich is late. Like, whatever. It's just crazy. It's just such a variety. And like you said, it's getting so much input and so much stimulation and so much like coming at you, and there's nowhere to put it. Right. You come home and you just kind of stare at the wall. I remember I mean, I still do it sometimes after really hard shifts. I'll drive home and there's no music on.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing. And I'm just like, what the fuck did I just go through? Like, literally, I'm just like, what was that? And so many of us, when we sit down and talk to each other, or if you phone a friend after your shift, they'll be like, what the hell was that? Like, and then we just kind of fall asleep and wake up the next day and do it all over again. And it's like,
I did this one thing the other day before a shift, and it was kind of really weird. Like, I didn't think about it, but it was funny to do. And I was in the shower, and I was like, I'm going to be a different person when I'm in the shower this evening. Like, I'm about to go, you know, and you just think about it. You're like, I have no idea what I'm going to see, what work is going to be like, any of that, what I'm going to go through. And I'm going to be a completely different person when I get home and I'm in the shower again tonight. And then I took that shower and I was like, oh my God. I was like, it's so weird when you think of it in such that short period of time of shower to shower of all of the things that you've seen, all the things you've done. And you're just like, whoa, like it feels like one shift is enough for the week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's, I feel like almost physically and emotionally the most that people should really even handle, even though it's not possible, but.
Right. That's incredible. Because then, like, what do you do with that? Like, you have to keep going back. You can't work one day a week and make a livable wage.
Right.
Shit. You can barely work 3 days a week and make a livable wage.
Yeah.
Go be a travel nurse. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, so I think it's a lot of input. There's no real appropriate way for us to sort through and deal with the there's traumas that we witness, but there's also just the stress of something constantly coming at you.
Right.
Like the waiting room is never empty. The waiting room is always full, and with that it bears the potential of some life-threatening event. And every single nurse in the ER works to clear out a waiting room.
Right.
Like that's kind of how we're conditioned. The worst case scenario could be sitting out there in the waiting room.
Yeah.
And so even though you bring them back and you triage them and you know what I mean, you always bring people back and triage them and then kind of see who can and can't wait. It's still anything and can and has gone sideways. And you kind of just always like for 12 hours, you just bear that in mind.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's like the impending doom.
Yeah.
For 12 hours.
Yeah. Think worst case scenario.
Yeah.
For 12 hours straight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you carry that at home. And I think that was probably the most wild thing out of this 2 years is to think about like just the mental health impact that it has. And you don't feel like you know where it's coming from. Initially, you're just like, why do I feel like this? Why am I depressed? Why am I anxious? Like, you know, it's just you've never felt like that before. And you're just like, what's happening? And then you're like, oh, I have to get on medication. You can take a step back and you're like, this is what's
my job. My job is what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. In addition to, there's been 3 funny things that I've seen today. In addition to the CDC saying that healthcare workers can now come back to work without quarantining if they feel good enough to do so, even if they test positive for COVID. That was the first funny thing I saw today. And I want to talk about all 3 of these things. The second funny thing I saw today was the AHA said that we are now required to start compressions immediately, which obviously in a normal situation, yes, but regardless of the COVID status of a patient, we are not to spend time donning PPE. We are to start compressions immediately, regardless of whether we even have a mask on or not. And then while the rest of the team dons PPE, and then we're to come out of that room and don our PPE. So personal PPE is personal protective equipment. Basically, they're saying rush in there, start compressions, whether you're protected or not, which really changes the narrative of what they had been saying before, but also further highlights how much they just don't give a shit about us. And then the third thing was the AAC, American Journal for Critical Care Medicine, put out an article that said that the title was now, what is reassuring about this article is that it only had one author. Okay. So Merry Christmas to everybody except for Annette. Happy New Year to everyone except for Annette. But she put out an article that said, is it really nurse burnout or is it low estrogen or menopause? And she went through all the symptoms of burnout. I know.
I'm done. Yeah.
Yo, I've had low estrogen since I was 22. Thank you. So it was a whole thing about how burnout symptoms can sometimes mimic the same symptoms of low estrogen or menopause.
Oh, that's what I've been feeling. I'm so glad Annette could explain that for me.
I know.
Praise
Annette,
be.
I love it. I will no longer be joining the American Journal of Critical Care Nurses. I pay for, actually, I think there are some of them down here.
Should we burn it? Just kidding. Burning books isn't funny.
It just continuously highlights how when nurses, healthcare workers, and bedside clinicians that work for these big healthcare systems voice their pain, that is completely legitimate, voice their concerns, voice their symptoms of burnout, their symptoms of what the post-traumatic stress and what a lifelong career in something like this causes in our bodies. They continuously put that back on us. Well, let's figure out ways for you to become more resilient.
Yeah.
No,
thank you.
I decline.
Yeah, respectfully decline.
Right. The issue is not us.
No, but we're made to think it is us.
Right. And
gaslighting 101.
You've been a nurse for 2 years, and how many times has it either been blatantly said to you or in some way insinuated to you that if you can't hack it, maybe this profession isn't for you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because with the CDC, with the AHA articles, it's almost upsetting because my initial reaction is honestly, okay, well, so this is what we signed up for. This is what I'm a nurse and this is what I do. And I put others before myself and that's that. And then I'm almost that's my automatic thought. And I don't truly believe that. You know what I mean? But you're in the environment long enough and you become a product of your environment and you believe it. You believe that your life during those 12 hours is supposed to mean less than everybody else's and your safety and your health. And it's a really weird balance because you do have to push yourself to help others. You know what I mean? We're there for so long.
Right.
If someone's dying in the other room and, you have to just put yourself aside and focus on that.
I haven't urinated. I haven't eaten lunch. I haven't done any of the normal human, I have not met any of my basic human needs. But I'm not here for that. I'm here for you. I remember being in a code when after Esther was born, and my milk let down, and my whole shirt was wet. But I wasn't here for myself. I'm here for that person.
Right.
And it's it's that constant kind of mindset that I feel has been intentionally engineered into us. And while you're doing it, there's something in psychology, and it's just called praise what you want repeated. Praise what you want repeated. You want people to show up extra 4 shifts a week, your regular staff, and get paid their regular pay. Throw up a sign that calls them a healthcare hero and give them a t-shirt and give them pizza. And for the longest time, they have done just enough praising what they want repeated. And they've played on our compassion, and they've played on our sense of duty and really our sense of calling, our sense of purpose. And it's no, this truly is my sense of purpose. And that is exactly why I have to protect myself in such a way that gives me longevity in this. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Because at the end of the day, and it's not just us. It's physicians in residency is residency, you give the best years of your life to medical school. The years when you're supposed to be starting a family, years when you're supposed to be having babies, and you can barely do both to come out with what? A mortgage, like literally a student loan the size of a mortgage.
Yeah.
And then, well, I don't know why physicians have the highest suicide rates in the United States.
Yeah.
Take the trauma that we witness and not just witness, but sometimes feel responsible for on a daily basis, and couple that with crippling amounts of debt that inhibit me from having the life that I want to have outside of work. And now my whole entire life is centered around the altar of healthcare.
Yeah.
And it's just like, we're suffering.
Yeah.
Like, we are literally suffering in the meantime.
I think it's been interesting. And it's hard because I really, really, really love the people I work with. I know everybody is responding to what someone above them is telling them they need to do and they're required to do and this and that. And it's just a vicious cycle.
Mm-hmm.
But I've honestly, have gone through a toxic relationship before, and this is so similar.
So similar.
It's insane.
It's so similar to narcissistic abuse.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why I was in it. I was like, yeah, no, that isn't. I've done that, been there, done that. I don't. I'm getting paid for it now, but like, it's
call
fine
up my
now.
ex,
Yeah.
be like, hey, if you could just pay me for
That'd be
the
cool.
years that, yeah. It's so funny that I know you well enough to know what you're talking about. But you're like, yeah, haven't we all?
Yeah.
But it is. It's the gaslighting.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as bad as you think it is.
Playing off your guilt.
Yeah.
And that's the part too that's so sad, is that you do have a lot of people, and some people aren't like that. Some people are like, no, fuck this. You're not doing this. I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of us, we do just like, everything is for your team. Don't let your team down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like majority of what we have at work, because you find like some of those people that I've become friends with through nursing are like the closest people that I have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, those are, the bond there is so strong that it's like, oh yeah, I don't want to let them down. I don't want to screw them over.
But what is that bond?
I don't know.
It's a trauma bond.
Yeah.
It's literally a trauma bond. We have bonded with our team, and we feel so strongly about each other because we have gone through and witnessed traumatic events together.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I resonate on my day off with you in the hell that you're in.
Right.
And every manager on planet Earth knows that when they text me and say, hey, we're short-staffed. Can you come
I've
in?
had people text me specific names. This person needs your help today. And I was just like,
shit. Well, you better get out there and help them. Be like, that is very sad to hear.
Yeah.
you
should really help them out. Sounds like they're in trouble. No, but it's just like, they know, like, people will pull at your heartstrings, and you're just like,
wow.
why? Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's next level.
Oh, yeah. It's just, and it's sad. And it's just like, I don't know. You just have to build a boundary and build a wall that's really, really hard to build in that, or like form in that environment.
I love that you said boundaries, because this show being called Hey Junior, is the computer doing something?
Is it writing us a message?
Okay. It was.
Yeah, it was saying hello.
Hello.
Creepy. This will just turn into a ghost podcast.
That's it.
Yeah.
The podcast is over.
Yeah. We got a message from the other side.
We're gonna take it.
Yeah.
Okay, so boundaries. This is for the caregiver. Caregiver, you are gonna need boundaries to survive this profession. You're gonna need boundaries around your day off. I think another reason why boundaries might be really hard is because they don't pay us a whole lot. So sometimes we are trying to make money. So when they offer that extra shift, you're like, well, I could use the money.
Yeah.
I could use the money. Whereas if you were getting paid enough to live the lifestyle that you reasonably wanted to, I'm not talking about like lavish lifestyles, okay? The chains, they're fake. It's fake chains.
I got like similar ones. I mean, I'm not saying yours are from Walmart, but I got
I'm just
they're $5.
They're not real. They're not real. Okay, one of them is real, but it was a gift. Okay. Anyways, so there's a lot of factors that would compel me to come in when they need help.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that is by design. What were we talking about upstairs?
Oh, how I went PRN.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I had not the most traditional route of becoming a nurse because I got a different degree, unrelated, initially. And then when I was, I don't know how old I was, 26, 27, decided to go back to school to become a nurse. And in Nova, I had to get my bachelor's, I had to do an accelerated program. So unfortunately, majority of the accelerated programs are private schools.
Mm-hmm.
So, and being above 26, I couldn't, have like federal loans or anything like that. And it being my second bachelor degree, couldn't qualify for the same type of loans. And my program was like, I think at the end of it all, like $80,000.
Wow.
Yes. So all of that was, majority of that was private loans. So those are fun. So when I started working full-time as a nurse, it was just like, okay, these are so, like, I mean, my student loans are close to a mortgage payment. Like and I just had my bachelor's.
Wow.
So I'm just like, how was this program the same amount as like what, my best friend who became a nurse practitioner paid literally maybe $5,000 more than me and came out making six figures. Right. And I come out making like $40,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And so that was definitely a hit. And it got to a point where I was so overwhelmed and being paycheck to paycheck. And I'm like, I worked so hard for this that like, I don't want to give up, but like I have to do something. Otherwise I'm just going to drown and I can't do that. So I kind of had this idea of like, okay, I might want to go PRN or part-time and go back to, because I used to be a recruiter before nursing. So go back to that. I can do that from home, be a PRN. So that was an idea. So I was like, but let me just try and stick it out and see how many shifts I would have to work in a month. And this includes some bonus shifts. To make what I needed to make to like make sure I can pay all my payments and then have a little bit of money to save. And I worked literally every day except for 2 to 3 days in a month. And I was like, I can't do that. Like,
that's unbelievable.
It makes no sense. So ended up having to go PRN. And I mean, I explained that to my management and they were like, I wish we could pay you more. Like, yeah, we can go to HR, but it's probably going to be a couple dollars. Right. And I was like, it's not gonna.
Right. So do you have health care under PRN status?
No. I have that through my other job, which I work Monday through Friday. And then I work, I'm only required to work like 4 PRN shifts a month. But then I just pick up like night shifts and stuff. Extra. Yeah.
Wow. So here you are, a whole ass nurse with a BSN. Mm-hmm. And financially, what makes more sense to you is to have a whole unrelated job and then pick up PRN, working night shifts, and doing what you can to pay your bills.
Yeah, 100%. And it's sad. I mean, I was at that point where I was like, should I just go travel? Like, should we? It's hard. And I don't think in where I'm at right now, I'm planning a wedding, I'm doing all this stuff financially. Would be awesome, but
logistically,
relationship wise, like
it's a lot.
Traveling
is scary because I am seriously considering it, like very seriously considering it. And what the thought that keeps reoccurring in my head is like the evil you know is better than the evil you don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know what I'm walking into.
Right.
You don't know how essentially, I wouldn't even necessarily be walking away from my workplace because it's so terrible there, even though it is, and we have a ton of travelers there as it is. But it's like, well, if I'm going to be this stressed out, I can go somewhere else and be this stressed out.
And make 3 times your income.
Make 3 times the amount of money. and then kind of figure it out from there, or take a couple contracts, save, pay off some of those student loans. Like, nobody paid our way to get to where we are, to care for people in a global pandemic. We're still paying off our debt. We're still trying to care for ourselves and our family. And then you got the CDC being like,
just in case thought I cared.
If you feel good enough, you can come on back in, whether you're positive or not. And here's what I have to say to the CDC, who will never see this because like 30 people listen to my podcast. And that's okay. I love the 30 people that listen to my podcast. I seriously do. But here's what I have to say in response to the CDC. How do you expect the general public to take you seriously when you tell them that they need to quarantine at home for 10 to 12 days, or even now, what's the new guideline? 5 to 10 days, if from your last COVID symptom, if you are saying that healthcare providers can come back at any time if they feel good enough to do so.
And Lord knows good enough for nurses, because you're going to get guilted. I worked through having COVID.
Right.
I think most of us did.
Most of us did. I know people who have worked through having viral meningitis. Like, we show up.
Yeah.
Like, unless I'm, like, we always joke, like, unless I'm dead, I'm going to be there. And there's kind of something to that. And you're saying that I can go and care for people who might not have COVID and have all these other comorbidities that COVID could be deadly for them?
Yeah. That's cool. That's fine, because
and then you wonder why the general population doesn't trust you, doesn't take your vaccine seriously, doesn't take your mask recommendations seriously, doesn't take anything you say seriously. Like, get your shit together. Right.
It's embarrassing, honestly.
It is.
Because then it's also like, well, we see firsthand what the difference between, if people are vaccinated, they're not vaccinated, how it affects people who get sick, and just watching people get COVID for the past 2 years, like, I mean, I feel like we could probably just sit down and tell everybody what they need to know for the most part. But like, so it is so conflicting that it's just like, it's embarrassing. It doesn't make any sense.
It's embarrassing, but it's also, again, that narcissistic gaslighting. Yeah. Like, it's not as bad as you're saying it is.
Right.
When I have a 38-bed emergency department and I only have 4 rooms to run the entire rest of the ER out of because every other bed has an inpatient patient in it.
Right.
When 99.6% of the people in the hospital requiring oxygen that have COVID are unvaccinated, and you're telling me it's okay to go breathe my COVID breath on possibly the unvaccinated population?
Mm-hmm. Can I tell you something that my hospital did, which blew all of our minds? And this wasn't even COVID related, but it's still so, like, just completely the opposite of what we've been telling our patients that we need to do and trying to keep everyone safe. They decided to do construction on 2 floors at the same time. So 3rd floor, 4th floor.
No beds.
Shut down. No beds.
You got nowhere to put the patients.
For 2 to 3 weeks, we were like that. And the nurses on the floor would just not show up because they were supposed to come down to the ER and, like, float and help. And a lot of them would just,
I'm not an ER nurse.
I'm not doing that. For the whole patients. But we had every hallway bed filled, which don't exist. Technically, they're not supposed to exist. And we, like...
What's hilarious is that now the Joint Commission doesn't like the term hallway beds.
I know.
Right? They don't like that term. The Joint Commission. They don't like it. So... So we've been calling them like everything else but that in the computer. But literally the beds are in the hallways. Yeah. Or in like the nooks and crannies or like whatever. Little carved out spaces where the linen cart used to be, Yeah. I've run codes out of a hallway.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
I do STEMIs out of the hallway. You're just like, oh, you're having the biggest heart attack you could possibly have right here in the hallway. Yeah. Like, just pass me the heparin and get them ready for the cath lab. And the guy's like, you know, and you're just like, sorry.
Yeah.
There's people walking by. It's hard to adequately explain the scene.
Oh,
and
yeah.
because of HIPAA and all, like, even the sounds. I wish I could just record 2 hours
Yes.
of what it sounds like
Mhm.
to be in an ER to get people to understand.
Yeah.
Like, hallway guy, STEMI, psych patient
Yeah.
yelling, throwing shit. The police are literally tackling him, pepper spraying.
Yeah.
Like, no exaggeration whatsoever. The pepper sprays is in the air. Everybody's like trying to like see and breathe, and it's just like, and then you've got like some guy who's timidly coming out to the nurse's station, like back of his gown open. I pressed a call bell like 2 minutes ago and asked for a sandwich, and I just was wondering if I could get some follow-up on why I haven't gotten my set. Like, all of this going on. It's
Yeah.
like, have you looked around? Like, it's very dynamic in that way. Like, it's very fluid.
Mhm.
And a global pandemic is not the time
To do
shut down
reconstruction.
2 units of your hospital.
I was like, okay. So this is what we're doing. Got it.
I love it because I feel like, I don't know, I could be wrong about this, and no offense if you're a healthcare executive and you're listening to my podcast. Please continue listening. I want you to know how we feel. But I always imagine that like someone somewhere, like a group of people in suits, like around a boardroom table, were just like, yeah, that's a great idea.
I know, I always think that. What's that movie? It's like, I don't know why I can't think of it. I think Julia Roberts is in it. But it's like where they make the ads, like the marketing things for different commercials. And they're like, and then this. I can't remember the name of the movie. But
you know what she's talking about? June knows a bunch of movies. I'm not a movie person.
Little Rascals?
Not even.
June said Little Rascals.
No.
I don't think so.
Don't think that's it.
I don't.
Don't think that's the one, but might as well be. Little Rascals sitting
Sure.
around a board table, be like, "Let me go to the hospital today." Like, let's just shut down 2
This
floors.
week seems like a really great time. Just shut a lot of shit down. And I can see like there's probably one person in the group
That's like, no, guys.
that's like, hey guys, but there's like 40 people in the waiting room.
You're like, shut up, Stuart.
all the time. No, there's not. Be
Yeah.
quiet.
You don't know what you're talking. It was a good idea. I'm glad they did it.
I don't know. And I feel like,
You know how many nurses decided to leave during that time, though? It was like the final straw for a lot of them. They were like, no.
can you imagine? Of course they did.
Yeah.
Like, that is dumb.
That is stupid.
They do dumb things.
Yeah.
And I don't get it. And I wish they would at least try to explain. But
Even when they come down, like when we have my organization's like admin people come down or come to the area or whatever, and they come around, they, want to literally talk to you while you're in the middle of
oh my
doing
God.
everything.
It's the whole scenario I just described before.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, so what do you think is going right?
And you're just like,
Not one fucking thing.
right. And so I was in triage the day that they were there, and we have this thing where we keep our waiting room times down really, really low. And there's a good method, there's a good idea behind it, but obviously it just creates more chaos in the end too. But we pretty much just like don't let people sit in the waiting rooms. So we have this area
Straight back
called,
'em.
well, we don't have any beds majority of
Right.
the time. So we have this place called the W's, which is literally like you're sitting at the triage like it's almost like another nursing station, and you just have chairs.
Yeah.
We have,
Yeah.
like 8, 9 chairs.
Yeah, we doing that with the little dividers. Do you
No,
at
there's
least
no
have-
dividers.
Oh, wow.
It's just straight up next to each other.
Just-
And most of those are always full.
uh-huh.
And so it's usually a nurse and a tech. And
Yeah.
so you're handling triage and then
Uh-huh.
these 7,
yes.
8 patients
Yes.
that are
So-
all meant to be admitted. That's why they're in those chairs, because they're not going to be in and out patients. So you have people that need to be on like cardiac drips just sitting there. And you're like, cool. Whatever. Anyway, so he comes up to me and is just like, hey, do you have a minute? I'm like, not really. Like, we can walk and talk, whatever. And he was like, wait, so you do both? And I'm like, yeah. Like, we do this. And then the morning before someone comes in, we have like that fast track area. So usually you're doing triage, W's, and fast track, which is
For one nurse, one tech.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The level of responsibility, like, honestly, I just don't think that people understand. But
No.
anyways,
Yeah, like you during that time, so that's 30. Okay, so that's 10 beds in the fast track area.
Mhm.
And then we have 4 treatment rooms and then 8 potential
Right.
W patients.
so 18, potentially 22, and then whatever walks in the waiting
Yes.
room is just placed in the lap of a 20-something-year-old girl and her tech that's making $40,000 a year.
Yeah.
So the lives of 22 plus people are literally your responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. And he goes through this whole thing. They all talk to me. And they're like they seem flabbergasted that we're doing all that. But then at the end when they wanted to talk to me again to discuss the solution that they had, their solution was literally what like our triage classes are. Like, we should have a sign that says these people that have these symptoms should go in different areas. I was like, so you mean triage? You want us to do our job? Like, what? That's what you guys talked about? Do you guys not even know that we go through like ESI classes and we do triage and we know?
Okay, keep in mind these are people that make like $250,000
Oh yeah, I'm
dollars
sorry.
a year.
They're busy.
200. Okay, not even that's like an insane amount of money, but it's certainly more than. It's like they keep reinventing the wheel and then, but come out like
Not.
it's so revolutionary, and you're like, yeah, no, that's what we've been doing.
Yeah. That's what triage is.
Yeah.
And that was also like didn't even touch on a solution.
Yeah.
I was like, more staff would be nice. Paying us more would be nice.
More staff. I mean, every single staff meeting I've ever been in, it's like staffing is the elephant in the room. Like, they will literally sit there with their staff for hours strategizing about what we can do to make it better. And I'm like, lower your nurse-patient ratio.
Mhm.
Boom. It's better. Patient satisfaction is better.
Mhm.
What kills me is in the morning huddles when leadership comes down, they're like, hey guys, our likelihood to recommend on Press Ganey only got to like 69% this last quarter. And I'm like, well, we have an 11-hour wait time in the waiting room, so I don't think that we need any more recommendations. Like,
Yeah.
I like, people are not here out of recommendation. They're here out of necessity.
Right.
And we should be treating it like that.
Right. Instead of like
a customer satisfaction model, like likelihood to recommend. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. It makes no sense to me. This is an ER.
Yeah.
And you're picking which one to come. I mean, I get it. I get it's scary when it comes to your health, your family's health, and you want the best
but
care.
Likelihood to recommend has a
no.
lot to do with safety.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are certain ERs that I would bring my children to and certain ones that I wouldn't.
Mhm.
And it's not because of my interactions and how peppy they were and how it's because, do I think they might have a safe nurse ratio or not?
Right.
You want to talk about likelihood to recommend, get more people there to care for the people that come.
Yeah.
And
But then there's the other side too, where they do that and they bring in travel, and then your normal staff is insulted because you're just like,
absolutely.
well, why are they getting paid 2 to 3 times the amount that I get paid?
Yeah.
I don't get it. It's a slap in the face.
It's a huge slap in the face. And they could resolve the whole, like I said earlier, so you've got, even in local demographics, you've got people leaving their permanent place of employment to go work somewhere that's an hour away. Those people leaving that permanent place of employment to go back, and we're basically just swapping jobs because we can get paid more to do so. Whereas if all these facilities would just take a step back, pay their staff $10, $20, $30 more an hour, which is reasonable in regards to the fact that you literally pay double or triple the amount to a traveler, and you're willing to do that for 13-week contracts at a time, you might have some staff retention. Maybe. I don't know. I guess honestly, they're gonna find out.
Yep.
I feel like healthcare right now is just one big episode of fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna see.
Let's sit tight and assess.
Yeah.
Did you stage Don't Look Up yet?
No.
I only saw half of it because Karen was like, I want to watch it, pause it, watch it later. But the first half is...
Why does that sound so familiar?
It's the one with like Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence.
Don't look up. Meryl Streep.
Yeah, it's like when the asteroid is coming towards Earth and they're trying. It's like
I saw
totally
the trailer
your sense
for it.
of
Okay, I
humor.
saw the trailer for it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's like they go and tell the president, like, "Yo, this asteroid's gonna be here in like 6 months and kill us all." And she's like,
let's sit tight in this.
This is gonna ruin my midterms if we let this go. Like, and we tell everybody now. So like, let's just sit tight in this.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't spoil it, because...
Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah.
I didn't even see the whole thing, so there's no spoiling.
But yeah, I don't know how we got here, but yeah. So the next thing, AHA.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go into the room, start the compressions with you right away. While your team gowns up, puts on appropriate protective equipment, and then come out and put on your protective equipment. I guess it makes sense. At least it's congruent with the CDC, because if we're all just there with COVID anyways, then it doesn't matter. But you let us work 1.5 years with no vaccine on the front lines of a deadly pandemic. And then if we would not get vaccinated, we would lose our jobs. But then and now you're saying, don't even protect yourself, put the patient first. I guess it's just the constant disregard for my life, my choices, my like who do you think you are? It's almost like again, that toxic relationship. It's almost like you think you own me.
Yeah. It's honestly so, and I don't think this is right in the military either to have that perspective, but to me it does just feel so similar to that. You signed up, you signed a contract, you were hours for that amount of time, and you're going to be treated like a number. Right. To use you against whatever is going on. And it's sad because you care so much. Like, people get into it because you care so much, not because you want to fight an enemy or like you just want to be cool and be a nurse, but like you actually really care about people and you're being used for
like my instinct is to run in there and start the compressions.
100%.
But if I got a kid at home with leukemia, I might need to take a step back. If I have, something going on in my own body, I might need to take a step back. I don't
even understand the point of them saying that. You know what I mean? Right. Like, because honestly, like you said, majority of us are going to instinctually just go in there and do it. Why do you need to tell us that? No, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel
like somehow the healthcare system has coerced them into making this a guideline so that because I think what's been happening is there must be lawsuits or some backlash of there wasn't a fast enough response to my loved one needing a code or whatever. So at some point there must have been some, so I feel like, once again, it's this ploy to be able to put it back on us and be like, well, why didn't you go in there? Because the guidelines, the current and most latest guidelines that we made you do an SBAR and sign. Yeah. That's literally all mandatory education is about, by the way, is liability. So that when something goes down, I can put that back on you and say, no, you had mandatory education about this. Anyway, just a little side note. But so something, I don't know what drove these things, but they're so idiotic to me that I'm just like, okay, what is going on? Right. And how do you actually expect the general public to believe in the science when you do shit like this? Right. I really...
And you make it about money. At the end of the day, it's what it's about. It's not really like about anyone's true safety, even though it can be, portrayed that way.
Oh, it always looks that way. Yeah. It looks that way. The front of the hospital looks great. The front of every hospital looks amazing. Yeah. Ours looks like an airport. Okay. Should see the break room. You should see the break room, or if we have one. You should see the room that they give us to pump. Oh, wait, they don't. Just kidding.
Yeah, they don't give you one of those.
That's a good point. They freaking updated the building, but they couldn't give you guys more.
Oh, yeah, no.
Oh, yeah, the things they reconstructed 2 floors and murdered all of us.
They will update the building.
Yeah.
Healthcare is amazing at smoke and mirrors.
Oh, they bought us during the middle of the pandemic a froyo machine.
Well, you're a hero, Elena. That's why.
And guess what? It's broken, and no one ever came.
Of course, it's broken. It's like the ice cream machine at McDonald's. Like,
Yeah, always broken. I'm pretty sure we had it for like a week.
that's literally healthcare. It's a picture of the best fucking Oreo McFlurry you've ever seen in your life, and then you pull up to the drive-thru, and the machine is broken.
Yeah. And then you get mad at people about it and sue them over it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then nobody's happy. I hate to have to tell you that. You hate to have to hear that. And now there's all this tension between me and you act like an entitled patient, and I act like a nurse that doesn't give a damn. And it's actually neither of our faults.
Right.
It's a setup for failure.
It is.
It's a true and actual setup for failure. It's a setup for disappointment. There's literally a hospital down. I almost said the name of the hospital. Down south. There's a hospital where there's a sign that says ER, 8-minute wait time, always. Okay? 8-minute wait time, always. It says that. It never changes, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What it actually means is it'll be 8 minutes from door to triage.
Right.
But every triage nurse knows that you might be triaged for, I don't know, a piece of dirt under your big right toe and sent back to the waiting room for 8 hours if you're not dying.
Yeah.
So now the hospital system has attracted someone to come in, and you've put me in a position where I now have to tell that person that it'll not be an 8-minute wait.
Yeah.
It'll be a 2, 3, 4, 5-hour wait. And so you've already set us up for failure.
Yeah.
You've already set the expectation here, and then the actual outcome is nothing close to it. It's not fair for me. It's not fair for the patient. It's just a setup for failure.
Yeah. No, it is. And then it's always our fault.
And what also gets me is you've paid somewhere in a marketing room for these strategies.
Right.
Millions and millions of dollars a year for marketing strategies. When if you had a robust staff, a robust system, your actual work and the integrity of it would speak for itself. Your actual reputation would speak for itself. And somehow, in their minds, they're spending less money on all of that fluff than they would to actually spend money on the content and the actual, I want to say character, but that's not what I'm trying to say, on the actual substance of what's going on inside the building.
Yeah.
If you have happy staff, you have happy patients.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I just think it's at a point now where it is so guided in a certain direction. Like the whole mindset of everyone that's more in control of how it runs, it's just on a completely different path than like what we are on. You know, like the support is always going to be where the money is. And that they're going to look at more of physicians. They're going to look more at administration. They're going to look more at, you know, customer satisfaction. And I do feel that, like, not to be like, oh, it's never going to change, because I think it will. It's going to have to at some point. But it's going to have to fall apart even more first.
It's going to be me. We talk about being the change. We talk about be the change, right? But like you said, I don't think it's going to change. Because you know how, like, someone like you or me, it's like, I'm going to be the change. And then they go up the chain of command and they become an assistant nurse manager and then they become whatever and then they become a CNO and they're just immersed in this system. And I'm good because now I'm making I don't know, 800,000 a year as a CNO of a hospital, or you know, somewhere between 5 and $1 million or whatever. And my life's comfortable. It's almost like they lull you to sleep a little bit, and you forget what it's like to be at this level. And maybe, you know, a few of them need to be patients to kind of be woken up, but they would get the VIP treatment anyways. But if the only thing that matters to them is money, then we'll have to make you bankrupt by traveling.
Mm-hmm. Slowly but surely.
I mean, that's like the only thing that speaks to them is money.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, speak the language, I guess.
But it's so counterintuitive to the nature of who we are.
And I think that's I mean, there's some people that are finally gotten to the point, they're like, why not?
Yeah.
But it is funny, though. Like, it's almost hard. I feel like sometimes in social settings with nurses, and, you know, we have so many friends that left and traveled and support them in whatever they want to do. Sometimes it's almost like that weird, like, come with us. And you're just like, and you're just like, you know, like there's stuff in your life where you can't, you know, but like, and you're not on that path. But it is so funny how everyone's like, what are you doing?
All the nurses that have gone to travel are like, hey, I just wanted to let you know this is the agency that I work for.
Yeah.
And they have day shift available. It's like a secret, you know? Or we talk about it at work, you know? And like, oh, so-and-so, well, so-and-so went here and now she's making X amount of dollars an hour. Can you believe that? Plus a stipend. And it's like, you're like looking around. Like your manager's about to walk up or something. And it's just like, why are we like, I am 33 years old. Why am I whispering? Like, that is not okay. Like, it's so, I don't know.
It's funny though. I've had those conversations with my manager when I was just like, look, I think for me personally, like, because she was like, please don't travel. You know, like we're losing everybody. And I was just like,
it can't be easy to be them either.
Oh God, no. I really do feel for them. Our manager and our director, I just feel like they do work really hard and they
I feel that way also.
Give a lot, but they're also having that whole other side.
It's just a down, what's the down?
Downwards.
Huh? A down.
It's a down.
Trickle effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. That.
Yeah. That down trickle effect.
That downward.
They figured it out.
Well,
but
my brain is also having a down trickle effect.
It has been for like.
It's my job, you guys. Okay.
Yeah.
Stop judging.
Just slowly changing as a person.
I just don't even know who I am anymore.
Like we're great. We get so like sidetracked together. We're just like, and they're like.
I do think a lot of nurses have ADD and ADHD. If you are anything like me and her, if you're resonating at all, we both have very significant. Well, I don't know if you actually have a diagnosis. I have a very significant diagnosis of ADD. So
it's funny though. If I feel like, I think I do want to talk a little bit about like the changes in mental health from starting to be a nurse.
Okay.
Especially since I feel like I had been through a lot. I was a little older when I started, so it wasn't like I'm, 21 and my brain's still developing like when I became a nurse. Yes. Yeah. But it was so crazy to just the way that I started to feel, the way I started to look at the world around me, the way I started to perceive my life, like how much I saw that just slowly change, and it became just really hard. And I think that it's part of also being in that toxic relationship, with your work, that you're just like, oh no, I have to, your brain just kind of changes its whole entire thought process pretty much. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where you're looking at life completely differently when you are not at work, because it's so intense there that you're like, oh, I can separate, it's fine, like, but it's so intense there that your brain's like, no, we're just gonna create this whole new pathway, and like learn new behaviors and then just bring that into our normal life.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I talked about this on other podcasts, and I don't want to be redundant, but your brain, the neurons fire in the pathway of least resistance. And so they fire in the pathways that they have been firing in.
Right.
And so when you think critically and you think in terms of worst case scenario for 12 hours at a time.
Yeah.
It is absolutely impossible to not then bring that mindset into every other area of your life.
Right.
And there actually is no such thing as compartmentalizing. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest lie that healthcare workers have been sold is like, oh, you need walls, or oh, you need this, or you need that. But it comes out somewhere.
Right.
It's
in your
there.
personal life.
Guys. Okay. Dr. Vanderkolk, MD, you can thank me later. You maybe can give me a little bit of your profit. Seriously, every single person that is in healthcare needs to read this book, The Body Keeps the Score. The Body Keeps the Score, guys.
Drop the water.
I almost dropped the water. Sorry. The Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm ready to talk about the month that I've just personally had. I've been very sick for most of the month of December, and what I was sick with, I've been told the number one factor in becoming sick in that way is psychological stress. And the last 2 years of working in a pandemic and the amount of times that I've just been like, nope, I'm not going to think about it. Nope, I'm going to put that on. Nope. I can tell you that my body kept the score.
Yeah.
I can tell you that my muscles hold those memories. I can tell you that those pathways of expecting the worst, of hoping for and believing for and working 12 hours at a time toward in ICU, towards the scenario that you hope for, and then seeing it not happen time after time after time after time. The impression of that has seeped into every other area of my life.
Yep.
Almost to the point where, not almost, to the point where I subconsciously and consciously expect to be disappointed. I expect and anticipate loss.
Yeah.
I anticipate loss even in the face of people hating you the whole time you're working towards not.
Yeah.
And I expect to be misunderstood. I expect to try my best and it not be good enough.
Yeah.
And my brain and my body held on to those expectations.
Yeah.
And it's a lot.
It is.
It's a lot to carry.
And then it's like, when you have that realization, you're so far in, and it's just like, I think for me, I've never been in a place where I had to be, and there's nothing obviously wrong with it at all, but never had to be on medications, never had to see a psychiatrist, see a therapist, and just go through that for so long. And it's just being like, well, where do I go from here? Because this is my job and this is what I do. And all of those memories are still just there. And it's only been 2 years. You know what I mean? And it's hard because you have this mentality too of just push through it. And I know you talked about that before on your one of your last episodes, but it's just but once you figure that out, it almost just feels like, I don't want to be negative, but it just feels like, oh, it's kind of too late. That damage is done. And then what do I do from here? Because changing that thought process that I feel like has been formed by traumatic things, it just takes over so much. You know what I mean? It just really changes the way that like you said, your expectations are completely altered.
Yes.
Even in just like the smallest like family situation. You could be just hanging out with a friend and your expectation of something is immediately worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, hey, how do I prepare for that?
Yeah. I didn't. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And it's, you know, you don't have kids and you know how, like, you want to just be hopeful for your kids. You want them to believe in, like, you know, the magic of Christmas and the whatever. And like, even this year, like, I literally, like, I'm just going to be honest, I'm putting up the tree and I'm like, this is total bullshit. Like, I feel nothing.
Yeah.
I don't even feel nothing. I feel like into the negatives of nothing. Like, it's less than nothing.
Yeah.
It's hard to even explain
Yeah, it is.
the
But I know
depths
what you
of
mean.
the apathy that you can kind of reach, where it's like almost like everything is happening on this backdrop of like, yeah, but I gotta go back next week and people are dying and it's gonna
or the
be...
shower scenario of I'm gonna be a different person.
Yeah.
My next shower.
Who will I be in a month from now?
Yeah. And I think that's always been the scariest part for me now. It's like how it's changing me outside of nursing. Like, I always joke with my best friend, and I love nursing. I love being a nurse, but I'm like, nursing ruined my life. Like, it changes you so much that it's just like, well, how far am I going to let this go? You know, like, and it's sad that that's how we become, and nobody cares.
No, nobody cares.
Mm-mm.
And that's why it's really imperative that we take charge of our lives. That's why it's imperative when they text and like, hey, can you come in for that extra shift? I'll come in for time and a half plus $20 an hour. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's why it's imperative that we start giving those boundaries and that we start giving that pushback of saying like, actually, no, this is what I'm worth. Like, this is literally costing me my personality. It's costing me my peace of mind. And at the very least, you're going to pay me.
Right. At the very least.
At the very least.
Yeah.
That's the minimum.
You know what's the funniest thing, though, is that when I'm there, I'm happier.
Love it.
Love it.
Love it.
I've no anxiety. I feel completely myself.
Yep.
It's adjusting to not being in that setting.
I am not more calm anywhere on planet Earth than in a code or an emergency situation.
Yep.
I know exactly what to do. I know what I want to do. I know how to do it. It's like any good trauma bonding.
Yeah.
The dopamine's there, the cortisol levels are up, the mental clarity, the everything else fades to the background. All you have is this moment. All that matters is this moment.
Yeah. So it's a weird thing where it's like, also it's just like, well, I have to keep going back to that now. Because if I can feel the most normal there, I'll pick up extra shifts.
Wow. Insightful.
So it's just kind of, it's bizarre.
That's very insightful. Almost like an addiction.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird.
Wow.
And it's physical too. You know what I mean? It's not
it's
just
absolutely
like you
physical.
said, you're having
it's chemical.
like,
you're having a chemical reaction to what's going on.
Yeah.
We absolutely love our jobs.
Right. But it changes.
I just hate what it's doing to me.
Right.
Outside.
Yeah. So it's not even like, of course, the whole money thing is ridiculous. How much we're paid is ridiculous. The fact that, you know, it makes more sense to go travel to a different hospital. Mm-hmm. The system is ridiculous. But it is also just like the addiction part is the core of it all. Because you're never, that's why people continue to stay in that job forever. It's hard to adjust to something else. Like when I'm sitting and working from home, I'm like half losing my mind. And people are like, you seem a little like all over the place. I'm like, yeah, because I don't know how to focus anymore on a normal thing. I
only know how to handle 22 plus people at a time. I don't know how to handle one
email
that's right in front of me. And I'm the same way. Yeah. I struggle with that as well. Like, I wake up in the morning and it's like, okay, Julianne, you have one task today. And my brain's like, the other part of my brain is like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You already know you're not going to accomplish that one task. I'm like, I am, because
Yeah.
it's just one task. No. You give me 20 tasks.
Set the
at a
house
time.
on fire, then I'll get it done.
Exactly. I'll get that done. Plus, I'll have the flames out. Plus, I'll be running out carrying my children, and I'll be like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big deal. I just kind of did this and then this and then this. But you're right. And I love that you brought that up, because I don't know what the solution to that is, but it definitely has me thinking. Like,
Yeah. It's weird.
Because we're part of the problem. We are the problem. We are the Oh my God.
Yeah.
When you can't blame everything on the system.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
No, but it's also just like it's hard to feel accomplished outside of work now too. Because like, cool, I made the bed. Like, good job, me. Like, what do I
fed
do?
my children.
Yeah, I ate.
So, how much of our profession then is, or how much of our identity is wrapped up in our profession? And maybe that's where boundaries begin.
Yeah.
When we can kind of really begin to separate who we are from what we do. Like, I'm valuable if I never save another life. If I never saved anyone's life to begin with. Like, my worth isn't contingent on what I've accomplished in a hospital somewhere. And maybe just kind of beginning there and unraveling from that point.
There's a really good book. I haven't finished reading it yet. It's about setting boundaries. I saw it on Red Table Talk.
She's going to think of it. I just know it.
I mean, I can look it up on my phone and I can tell you. But
look it up. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just so intrigued with this thought right now. Just what the whole point that you brought up about just like feeling normal at work, feeling accomplished at work.
And it doesn't make sense to anybody else.
Almost to the point of addiction.
Yeah.
And it that part makes sense to me in terms of the intensity of the chemicals that our brains release.
Set boundaries, find peace. A guide to reclaiming yourself.
Do you kind of
by
like...
Nedra Tawwab.
Okay. Do you low-key make fun of it when you read it? Or is it good?
Low-key in the sense I'm like, that's stupid. But like, not the ideas. It's
something's wrong with us. That's
cool boundaries, whatever. But no, it was just talking about like,
sir, I can't do compressions right now.
I need to set a boundary.
It's 7:34 and I have boundaries. I was supposed to clock out 2 minutes ago. I need to go. Goodbye.
But no, I think we know that there's going to be no boundaries when we're at work. Like, you just got to do what you got to do. So then you come home and then you're kind of just like, cool, now I have zero boundaries and I have no direction. Because normally at work, you at least have direction. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you can just accept that everything just is what it is. You're going to go with the flow and you don't have to think and you just do it.
Well, at work, the direction is handle the next worst thing.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
You just keep doing the very next thing that absolutely needs your attention for 12 hours straight, and then you leave.
Yeah.
And life isn't like that, because like cleaning out the fridge or folding the laundry, there's nothing dire about either of those things.
And I don't get a really cool dopamine rush after doing
There's no
those.
push for it.
So it's almost just like you said, it's hard to detach like our self-worth from that. And I don't even know if it's fully like, of course, like I love being able to save a life, but I've had to block that off to a point, like where it's not even like, let me save this person. I know that sounds terrible.
No,
it's more of just the science of it, because it's just too fucked up to just when I didn't have that wall, I still have those memories of those people crying to please not let them die before we intubate them and then they die. And then, you know, all these different terrible, crazy things. And it's just like, you can't. I was like, I can't.
As much as in the moment you're compelled to go toward that thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like you have to train yourself of like, you're not meant to carry every death that goes on in your shift. Like, you're not. Like, there are plenty of times where I walk right past the code room. Like,
oh, yeah.
I'm not going to, like, no, that's not for me. I'm going to go find this splint over here that is way less exciting, but needs to be done nonetheless, and just kind of go from there. But
it's like the I feel like the self-worth, the accomplishment comes from those situations so much so that it makes our normal personal life seem so much more dull. Because I don't, like I said, like jokingly, yeah, I don't get a dopamine rush from doing the laundry or from cleaning the house, but I'm put in these situations for 12 and a half, 13 hours where it's just like I constantly have that up and down and up and down and up and down. So it's just like, how can we actually physically go from one into the other and expect our personal lives to be grand and to be purposeful and to feel like, I don't know, healthy
Right.
and not dysfunctional and not like that when you go back and forth between having that huge adrenaline rush and dopamine rush.
Do you find that you also may have created scenarios in your personal life to be chaotic?
Oh, yeah.
So that you could get that kind of up and down? I know the last probably 2 to 3 years of my life have been very relatively peaceful in that aspect.
Yeah.
But I know when I think about my like mid to younger 20s where I really did create those chaotic scenarios outside of work, and and that might have been what I was trying to do.
Right.
And like not even knowing it is just my brain recreating
just like peak for yourself.
The dopamine spikes, the kind of some sort of problem that needs to be solved.
Right. Yeah. No, it's like weird. And I've gotten that better under control. I think I was noticing it like in my relationship, just kind of starting dramatic fights. I don't know why, and I'm like, I don't know why I did that. And it was just my brain, like you said, just trying to recreate this whole like thought process and feeling that I get at work.
Wow.
And there's also something about conflict and resolution. Work, conflict, we find one, we figure it out, and we try and resolve it.
Wow.
And then you come home and you're like, what are my problems here? What do I have to fix? I don't have anything to fix. So let me create something. Yeah. And if I can't find it, I'm going to make a problem.
I'm going to find it and I'm going to fix that shit. I'm going to fix the hell out of that. Like,
I'm going to create this problem.
And then you're just sitting in bed like with all your tears like, why do I do that?
Yeah. It's insane.
Are we good?
Yeah, it's just...
Okay.
I tried to do it seamless, but she jumped right in. It's not your fault.
Oh, sorry.
It's a problem that we need to fix.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Let's tear it down.
Only do podcasts then, okay?
No, we like conflict and resolution, so it's fine.
It's fine. You like this.
I got a little dopamine rush there when your
That was
camera's
great.
not working.
Ooh, you moved from your chair to there, and I was like, oh, we got a problem. Look at that. Oh my God, there's a problem.
Oh my God.
Something ain't right.
No.
I don't know. I'm like, so if you guys are watching this or listening to this, DM me, or if you're watching it on YouTube because that's your thing, comment if this resonates with you. I wonder how like med-surg nurses feel, or nurses that aren't in such intense kind of environments, like where it's more like it's a lot of work. I mean, nobody works harder than a med-surg nurse with a 6-to-1 patient ratio. Like, because I do float pool, so I'm like all over the hospital. And I mean, that's my worst day is med-surg. It's a hodgepodge of like whatever. And even though the acuity isn't the worst, it's just so much on time management, and there isn't those dopamine spikes.
It's a different personality, though.
It's true. But there's not that like up, down, unless somebody gets really pissed off or something, and then you're just like, I know how to handle this. Take the call bell away. Just kidding. We don't take the call bell away. That was a joke. It's illegal. So I just wonder, like, I wonder if different personalities have a propensity toward different types of nursing, etc. All that stuff.
Definitely.
But
then you trap yourself in a weird situation.
Mm-hmm. I love this train of thought, though, of like, how do we become healthier outside of work? Having that insight of like, what if I'm just addicted to the chemicals of being in emergency medicine?
Right. And how do I create, like, is it healthy for me to create something like that outside of work? And or how do I get satisfied with not having that? What do I need to do? You know, and I think and then that creates so much anxiety. It creates, I mean, I just remember when I was going to my therapist, I was like, literally everything feels like I'm in that stupid old Zoloft commercial with the little egg, and he goes from like seeing everything in color, and then all of a sudden it's all like dull and sad. I was like, that it feels like everything's black and white and boring. And I was like, but I came in it like, it's just so weird. Everything else is, and it's not like, you know, I've worked on things, but like it's nuts getting adjusted to that transition.
Wow. I don't know that I have that as severely anymore as I used to.
Yeah.
It's almost to the point now where even like the most exciting thing happening in the emergency room is still like, okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He just ripped down the curtain and is breaking the door. Okay. All right. Well, I think that looks like somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
All right. You know, like, so whereas I think, you know, in years past, I would have been like front row with popcorn, you know, like, how do I help, you know?
I think we just have so, like, our community, and it's also, that's another reason I find it hard for me to even think about, like, traveling is like, I got in this to serve my community, and we have a very underserved population where our hospital is. And so I feel like that is what, you know, a large part of my purpose was, and I truly believe in that.
Same.
But some of the sickest people, I mean, and I did, you know, rotations in DC, and there were very sick people there too, but you have the South mixed with unfortunate, you know, health literacy issues, general education issues, you know, poverty, all that. And it's just like, it's some of the sickest. So even if you're having, like, you're not even having codes, you're having crazy stuff all the time. Someone comes in for like toe pain and they're like an SVT, and you're like, why?
Right.
Why?
Additionally, you're dying. But like, I totally agree with you on that. Like, I love working where I work because it's the same place that I live.
Yeah.
And it's the same demographic that I live in. And I love that idea of like going to work and serving my community where I live. That's like it just, even with where I live, the demographic of psych population that we have in our ER can be 50% or even more at times of our ER beds. And I love that. I love being able to serve in that, and I think that even the backlash from COVID has exacerbated that, and to me that's just like an extension of serving my community through COVID. And so even that makes the idea of traveling that much, guys, there are travel contracts out there for $6,000 and $7,000 a week. Okay? And my desire to serve my community is still greater than my desire to grab at something like that.
Yeah.
And they know it.
They do.
They know it. We went all over the map today.
Yeah.
Like only true ADHDers could. But
it is what it is.
I like it.
Yeah.
I followed. I kept up.
You did. You did a great job. Did you? I think so.
Are we still? Okay. Are you good, June?
He's like, I don't know what you guys talked about.
No, I'm not.
This is going to have to be we're going to have to separate the episode because it's a long one. It's a long one.
Is it going to be like, you know, if you're drunk and having a conversation, it makes so much sense, and then you watch it later when you're sober and you're like, what the hell? That's what this is.
Who? Is that me? No, it's just somebody that looks like me.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I love the things that you brought up, and I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. That was very insightful on so many levels. We're going to have a lot of good clips and quotes.
Clips and quotes and clips and clips.
Clips and quotes and clips and quotes. All right. Happy New Year. We
Happy
love
New Year.
you. let us know. Send me DMs. I know, and for the people that have sent me DMs before, telling me about where and what you resonated with and what you've been struggling with. I read every single one of them. I love them so much. Put them in the comments, like and share. If you find like that it would be helpful for others. I love you guys. Do you have any closing?
I think just honestly, thank you for doing this. I think that nurses all just talk to each other and, try and vent. But I think that this is something that we all kind of need. So thank you.
Yeah. All right. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.